Now, this story is hard to tell because it hits real close to home. Thinking about it still gives me goosebumps. It was the night my niece was born. We had been celebrating all night, relieved and overjoyed that both mother and child were healthy after a difficult pregnancy. It was the best unplanned family gathering we'd had in years, filled with music, food, and alcohol. Somehow, at the end of the night, my grandfather and I were the last ones standing, or sitting actually, out on the porch, just enjoying the cool night air. My grandfather was known as a quiet, serious man, but I teased him all the time, and he would laugh out loud and tease me back. So that night, as we were sitting there, I teased him, as usual. "Granddad, you didn't touch a drop of alcohol tonight. Are you afraid of the spirits?" I laughed. He went so still it was as though he stopped breathing and looked at me with an expression that scared me.
"Yes, child. Yes, I am."
I laughed nervously, thinking he was playing a trick on me, but his expression never changed. "You're being serious right now, Granddad?"
"Yes, child. Yes, I am."
"What are you talking about, Granddad? I was just joking with you. I've never seen you drink." I figured on a night like tonight, one sip wouldn't hurt. He said,
"It was a night like tonight when I had my last drink."
Then he looked towards the sky with a faraway look that kept me from talking. I just sat there in silence, waiting for him to continue.
"It was the night your mother was born. I was so excited. We already had 2 boys, and we didn't know the gender before the birth back then. I had been secretly wanting a girl. So that night I went out and celebrated all night long. I celebrated so much that the room swayed a little when I got up to go home, but I felt invincible. Back then, there were mostly dirt roads and no street lamps, but the moon was full, like it is tonight, so I walked home in the best mood. I was probably singing out loud, but I didn't care. I was so happy I wanted to share it with the world. That's when I saw the boys walking in front of me. They were acting strange, whispering to each other and giggling. Right away, I knew they were up to mischief. And then I saw her, a little ahead of them. Even from behind, she was beautiful. That long white dress, that huge white hat, that hypnotic walk. And that's when I realized exactly what those boys were up to. I can't tell you exactly how it happened, but the next thing I knew, I was swinging around this large branch and screaming at those boys. All I could think at the time was, what if that was my daughter? I was angry and ready to fight them all. But they were boys, and I think just being caught made them run off. When I looked back at her, she was just standing there. So I said, "A pretty lady like you should have security to walk home at this hour." And I did. I walked her home. But I never put down the branch, and I walked ahead of her in case I had to fight anyone else. I would see them first. Don't try to make sense of it. That's what I remember. Walking a little ahead of her, swinging my sword branch at every breeze that blew, only stopping to ask her for directions. The rain started to fall, and I'll be honest with you, she invited me inside, held my hand, and tried to lead me up the stairs to her front door. Now remember, all I could think about was, what if this was my daughter? So I told her, "No thanks, I'll just wait on the steps until the rain stops if that's okay with you." And I did, but I fell asleep on her stairs. When I woke up, the rain had stopped. It was morning, and it took a moment to remember where I was. I put my hand on the step to help push myself up, and I touched mud. Did you know when you walk through mud, you leave muddy footprints? Well, there were muddy footprints all around me. Strange muddy footprints leading up the stairs. Every left footprint was shaped like a goat's hoof, a giant-sized goat hoof. The right footprint was shaped like a normal human foot. When I noticed them, I felt fear like I'd never felt before. and for a moment I couldn't move. Eventually I paid closer attention to where I was. It turns out I was at the old Peter's place. You see, Peters had disappeared a few months before, and his house was abandoned. It didn't look abandoned the night before, trust me. That's when I ran and didn't stop running until I got home. Later, I told my father what had happened, and he told me, "Good thing you are a good man. Diablesse likes her men drunk and stupid. That devil woman has one goat foot and one human foot, and when stupid drunk men try to take advantage of her, those stupid men tend to disappear, like that boy Peters. Personally, I'm afraid of the spirits, the ones you drink and the one with the goat foot."
I sat there in stunned silence, my grandfather's words hanging heavy in the cool night air. The idea that my playful teasing had uncovered such a chilling story left me feeling a mix of fear and awe. I looked at him, seeing him not just as the quiet, serious man I had always known, but as someone who had faced something unimaginable and come out the other side. "Granddad, why didn't you ever tell anyone this before?" I asked quietly. He sighed, the weight of his memories visible in his eyes.
"Some things are too strange, too frightening, to share."
I nodded, feeling a newfound respect for my grandfather, not just for his wisdom, but for his courage to face his fears. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, my grandfather stood up and stretched.
"Come on, child, let's get some rest. It's been a long night."
Years later, whenever I found myself at a family gathering, celebrating a new birth or milestone, I would remember that night. I would think of the spirits my grandfather feared, both the ones you drink and the ones with goat feet. Whether you believe this story or not, I know for a fact that he believed it. And that night scared him so much that he never drank alcohol after that. Ever. Thanks for watching. Click here for more Caribbean stories.